Man, Orrin and Orson West. I don't know if y'all remember these two boys, but if you're into true crime, I know you do. Hard to forget, this was a super, super big case all over the world. It was super big in the true crime arena. It was super big on social media, even for people who aren't really into true crime. And these are the two boys who original names were Sincere and Cash something. But there was a lot found out about the, I don't know if it's called DDS there in California. Um, there are a lot of parents that, say that their children are wrongfully taken in that county and they give them a raw deal. So, after seeing a lot of cases up front, it's more likely, well, it was more likely for me to believe that the original mother of these children, had some truth to her story. Now, the original mother had the baby was with a guy. The youngest one was with a guy, and she was at work, and his femur bone got broken. And she took him to the emergency room, and she didn't want to say who the guy was. So that didn't help, right? They took the baby, and if they take one, they're going to take them all. She had other children that were in her custody at the time for whatever reason. But these two that were in her custody got taken. Now, there was some discrepancies between her and the program she was supposed to go through to get her children back about a marijuana card. Now, she was posted on social media for a while about this. And there was some posts that came up about her drinking while pregnant and bragging about it. And then she, was saying about her marijuana card, she wasn't giving it up. Now, it's still unclear if she was on it for medical reasons, because that's a horse of another color in my opinion. But nobody was able to produce anything saying that she needed it medically. So I'm unsure. I know different states have different laws about marijuana, and if you have a card, you can make money, you can sell in certain places. So I'm not sure what her card was for, but apparently it was important enough to her to hold on to it. And it could possibly be that she was trying to keep them from just making her totally conform to whatever it is that they wanted, just because they took her children. And to a certain degree, I can understand that, because regardless of how other people feel about something, if that something is beneficial to you and it's important to you, it's not necessarily tied to the situation. Why should she have to give it up? So I don't have too much to say about that part, because I don't know enough about the intricacy of it to pass judgment, right? So all I know is that was part of it. And I'm pretty sure with a system, and a system that is alleged by a lot of people to be corrupt, her not wanting to go comply and bow down is probably the reason why they decided they weren't going to give her children back. And it sounds unfortunate. And I know a lot of people say, she should have did whatever. Well, honey, everybody is not the same, and everybody aren't, you're not in that particular situation, so you have no idea, what that is. And, either way, she should have had the opportunity, if she was fit otherwise than the incident, to get her children back. But she didn't. Not only did she not get her children back, they were put in a foster care system, and she was cool with the foster parent. And she was able to go see the children. I'm not sure if it was official visits or it was the woman letting her come whenever she wanted. I'm not sure how the rules go with that, right? And I don't know about those details, but there was some speculation or rumors that she wasn't supposed to have the visits that she was having the way she was having them. So I'm unsure. However, they moved the children. Okay. I don't have the paperwork to look at. So, I can't get all into it like a lot of other people have done. And I'm pretty sure that some of those people have more access, to more official information. But they moved the children to another foster place, which was Orrin and Orson, new parents. Okay, the Wests. They ended up adopting the child, and the mother said that she was never notified of the adoption process. Again, I am not sure if that's true. I have not seen the documentation, so I don't know, but this is what she said. Now, the boys ended up becoming missing, okay, and the father, the natural father, eventually came out and spoke, and he was kind of saying, like, he was in the dark about stuff, and he wanted to know where they were and things like that. Was he around all the time? It doesn't seem like it. It didn't seem like it. Nobody felt like he was around and he was helping her to try to get them back. But when they got popular for going missing, that's when he showed up a couple of times, right? And I haven't seen him since. I don't know about you guys. But they were adopted fairly quickly after going to their new foster place. Now, the state is supposed to exhaust every means possible to try and reunite the children with their parents before they, just completely abandon that thought and allow the children to be adopted. And it sounds like that wasn't done in this case. Okay. And the birth mother said she didn't even know where they were. She didn't know where they moved to and everything. The foster parents ended up adopting them after some time. And they had, I think, 4 other children as well. 2 being their biological children and 2 being fosters. And they were originally living in an apartment that wasn't sizable for that size of family. So I'm not sure how, but they did move soon after. So maybe that was part of what they had going on. They knew that they were looking for a house. They knew they were going to move. They were sure enough that they were going to move. So they allowed the adoption. I'm not sure. I don't think we all have the details on that. But there was a lot of drama with this case. And people were looking for Orrin and Orson for a very long time. And it was talked about every day, all day. And there were people out there. A lot has happened. The family where the children became missing from, the family that adopted them, they got talked about for changing their names. I don't understand that part. Now, someone stated just recently that part of them wanting to adopt them and change their names and move quickly is because they knew they were going to mistreat them and they didn't want no natural parents to come checking. If they really did what is alleged to the boys, I could see that. But people just generally getting mad at them for changing the names. Do you know anything about fostering and adoption? I've said this before when I reported on this story back then, that it is commonplace to change their names, especially if they're young. They'll get used to a new name fairly quickly. These were basically toddlers at the time. And they would get used to, I think one was still in diapers, but they'll get used to having a new name fairly quickly. But it makes sense, all the sense in the world to me, to change the name. It's not you. You're not fostering them. You have adopted them. So now they are yours. Okay. So that is a part of your family. So now we want to give them our family name, last name, and yes, first name. They didn't name them that. That's their child now. They have that right. And secondly, if they have names that are attached to their past, especially if it's unique names, and I know one was Sincere and the other one something, I can't remember, but those aren't common names. They're pretty unique. So all it would take is for someone who's familiar with the family to recognize them in some way and then hear their name and say, yeah, that's definitely them. And you do not know the full situation going on with the biological family. But what you do know as the adoptive parent is the biological family did not get these children for some reason. You did. Okay? You don't know if there is a stalker ex-boyfriend or the biological daddy or someone the mom dated or the mom herself or a cousin or anybody who would feel like, oh no, that's my nephew, and snatch him up. You don't know if somebody could harm them with anything connected to their past. You don't know if somebody will walk up to them and say, hey, I know who you really are. That's not your name. This is your name and we're your family, and now the child is going through all this and you don't even, like, sometimes they don't even necessarily know they're adopted yet. So it could be a lot of things that could put them in danger if they have clear ties to their past. So it's usually done as a safety measure above anything else. Okay? You have some children that come from abusive situations. Okay? And them being adopted out was something that literally saved their lives. So they don't need anything that could tie them to their past to where whomever out there who may harm them and probably harmed them before could get their hands on them. Or what if their parents got killed and they're the only witness? So sometimes adoption is also kind of like a witness protection program for children. They getting out of that situation. The killer knows that a child survived, but they don't know what happened to the child. Good, they don't need to know, right? But this world is big but small at the same time. What if the killer comes across the child and the child doesn't understand why they recognize this person? But they looking at him funny like, do I know this person? And the person looking at them like, oh, that's your name? Oh, that's why you looking at me like that. Oh, the child gonna go tell. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just giving y'all, just trying to get you to think. Like, because y'all really tripping still to this day off them changing the name. And that is just weird to me. Okay? So, past that, the adoptive parents can't call the police, came forth and said, our two youngest are missing. Okay. Police came. They eventually did a TV interview. And their behavior was off-putting to a lot of people, and they seemed to be guilty. They didn't have a clear story about what happened to the boys as far as how they became missing. The biological family was outside near them when they did this interview, and they were yelling at them and going off on them and all kind of stuff about how in the heck did they lose these children. Okay, so these are some things that you can take into consideration and be like, well, they've been getting accused since day one, and now the biological family is here and they're yelling and accusing them of everything. I can see them being a little uncomfortable and nervous and everything like that. Okay? So, they get a little slide for that. They get a little benefit of the doubt. Okay? But as time goes on and the investigation continued, and everybody on social media got involved, they put this family through it. And when I say through it, they put them through it. Now, where they lived at was, I know they moved from Cal City to Bakersfield or vice versa. Okay, y'all can correct me either way, but it's California. And where they moved from an apartment complex and they moved to a house. And where they moved to is almost like a desert type of area. Okay, so it's the neighbors are spaced out a bit, and there's a lot of desert-ish type land all around them. Okay. Now they had ring cameras from a neighbor across the street. They had ring cameras from a neighbor pretty much across them on the side. One across in the front and one across like kind of on the side of the back. It was a little bit side back. That could see their home. One of the neighbor cameras showed them putting the children in the van, taking them to the grandmother's home, and that they didn't see the two babies get in. They didn't see the two babies come back with them when they came back from the grandmother's home. Because what they said was the 4 are at the grandmother's. We kept the 2 little ones with us because they're still young, blah, blah, blah. But that camera footage was played on social media up and down all around 50 times over, sped up, slowed down. Everything anybody could do to it was done, and nobody saw the 2 children get in the van at all. Okay, so that wasn't good. Now their story is the wife was wrapping Christmas presents and the husband decided that the children should go outside and play with chalk so they won't be in the way, they won't see the presents, blah, blah, blah. He started going around the back, according to him, to chop wood. It's Christmas time, winter-ish time, right? He says the children got out back somehow and went out the fence. Now, the neighbors that are side back of them, they have a tall wooded fence. You can't see through the fence. You can't necessarily, you could barely see over the fence. Like up to the door maybe, but you can't see the full yard over the fence. It's a very tall wooded fence, privacy fence. But you can kind of see some shadows at some points. And it was hard to tell whether or not these shadows may represent 2 little ones in the yard and 2 little ones possibly going out the door behind him. And for a minute, people thought, based off of analysis that someone did off one of the footages, that the 2 went out the door behind him and he didn't see it and they ran down the street. Or that was kind of the story he was trying to go with. It was a little bit of both. Some people say they saw 2 little shadows. Some people say they don't see no children in their yard or going out the fence. Okay? So it was hard to really determine whether or not the children may have been with them and left the yard. The other footage about the van, getting in and out the van, that was grainy too. Okay? So they started interviewing people from where they lived before and where they moved to now. And the neighbors didn't even know they had children missing. Said they didn't see them looking. And they didn't ask them nothing. They didn't knock on their door. Okay. They also said, well, we didn't even know they had children. Now these people have, 6 children there? Is 6? Okay. And they said they definitely didn't see 2 little children there at any time. Right? So the front yard is not privacy fenced in. Of course, usually front yards aren't. Right? They said they didn't see any children. Then they got to interviewing people who may have seen them out and about since they moved to the new city, which I think they moved to Cal City. People said they've seen them, but they don't recall seeing them with two little small children. So then it became a theory of the children never moved there with them. So the city where they moved from ended up taking the main charge of the investigation because they felt confident that the children became missing before they even moved. And that would have been 3 months prior. Okay. The mother, she came forth, she was crying. She did her interviews. She said she wanted her children back no matter what, and whatever happens, they find them. She wants her children back. Okay? She wants her children back. Nobody could find the boys. Hashtag, where are the boys? That was the hashtag for them. Where are the boys? Fast forward to now. About 3-4 months ago, they went to trial. One of my biggest frustrations is when you have a case of public interest, any case, but especially a case that you definitely know it's public interest. And this was big. This was big. I'm talking about channels and people fighting cliques and crews, and they were going up to these. They had to move. They had to move out the house. People were going to the house. They were vandalizing the house. They had to board up the house. They had called and interviewed the woman who allegedly sold them the house. There was some rumors there about them possibly not having enough money to buy the house and doing some other shady stuff. People accused them of getting the babies just to get the check. They accused them of fraud, all kind of stuff. So they ended up going to stay with the husband's mother and father. People followed them there, followed them as they walked up and down the street, yelled at them, harassed them, scoped out the mother-in-law's house, and said, they burned the children in the backyard. There's a abandoned van back there, and that's where the bodies are, and all kind of stuff. Had that woman yelling crazy up and down. They took the father's brother. He would wear a long trench coat and stuff, and they was saying all kind of stuff about him and follow him around and blah blah blah. And it was just a mess. It was a mess. So the mother-in-law, the grandmother to the children, she ended up doing an interview herself, and they also got on TV a little bit, her and her husband, and they said, listen, y'all messing with us hard. We don't know. Okay? But I guess the public felt like whatever we got to do to bring it out. We want to know where the boys at, because y'all not producing the boys and you're not helping us look. You act like you don't care. But the adoptive parents were saying, our safety is in jeopardy. We can't go out and search with y'all. People were saying, you don't care because you won't come search with us. But at the same time, they were being harassed heavily 24/7 and their families. So there's no way they could attend any vigils and search with y'all. It just got so ridiculous. Some of us just started looking at other directions and saying, hey, one day we're going to get an update, but this right here is too much going on. People were blowing up from this. Their channels were getting popular, and there was a lot of dirty stuff going on, a lot of beef and a lot of dirty stuff going on. I'm like, dang, social media got y'all turned out. Okay? So now they had a trial. They had 6 charges, and I think they got found guilty of 4. Now, the 2 charges that are murder and conspiracy to murder, they found it was undecided or mistrial on that part. But I'm going to play this video. where they're going to tell you about it. Now, they're not airing this, so, this probably be the only video I'm going to do on it. If I can't watch the trial, it is what it is. Because it's our right to be able to have access to what's going on in these trials. I can imagine if they have someone they want to bring to court about King, even though they put it on the babysitter, and they want to King Hill, if y'all remember him, round about the same time as the West, but never found his body. They ended up convicting the babysitter, but the stepdad Marv had him, and his wife, and that was a whole trip, if y'all remember. But I can't imagine they're bringing a new person for trying him, or they found his body and they're going to bring a new person for trying him. And then they don't air none of this stuff. It's just, I'm not sure what the reasoning is for not airing these cases, but they're saying the public has a right to them, so they have let us know that the audio is on the website. You can't restream it. The judge says that's illegal. He's going to get you. But you can go to the website and you can listen. And that's cool. But it's not. Nowadays, court proceedings are shown on TV. They're shown on social media. That's where we're at now. So when you start denying that, I'm looking at it kind of funny. I cannot, me, myself, rely on reporters, commentators, to give us their versions of what took place, and I don't know if that is even accurate, or they're assuming, guessing, or even if it's one or two little parts here and there, it's still all inaccurate information. Or they're putting their biasness in it and blah, blah, blah. No, heck no. We all know about Orrin and Orson West. We all had a part in Where Are the Boys. We all want to sit and watch this trial. We want to sit, just like we have been doing with Breasia Terrell, and we want to watch Jacqueline and what's the boy name, the husband name? We want to watch them go through their trial. We want to see the evidence that is presented. Okay? People have a lot of speculations about these people and them getting these monies and these children and crookedness here and there and there, and them not airing the trial makes me think that there's some truth to what these people are saying. Okay, more truth than we would care to admit. However, they decided not to air the trial, so I didn't even look. Okay, but now we have a verdict, and the two main charges, I'm not sure if they're going to double back and try and charge them again at a later date. But my assumption is they're going to leave it where it is. I've already seen enough people say they're satisfied with the charges. I've seen people from representing the biological family saying that at least they got that. We'll see when they get sentenced if they still feel the same way. And yes, it's hard without a body. But how did they even get charges of murder? And conspiracy or attempting to commit murder in the first place? Now, yes, it has to be conspiracy, because the conspiracy is that they killed, or he died, one of the brothers, and then shortly thereafter they decided we're going to ditch the other brother with him, so we're going to do away with him and do away with his body. Okay? They told us back then that the boys died 3 months before coming to Bakersfield. Now, or Cal City. I'm not sure. I can't remember. We knew that they didn't, it was likely they never even showed up there. But how can y'all definitively, officially say that they were deceased, and they were deceased for about 3 months before they moved there? How can y'all say that? We never got those answers. Now we know why they said it. They interviewed the other children. And the other children's testimonies, from what I'm gathering from what is being reported and the little bit of it I've watched, the children's testimonies were their main ammo in this whole situation, which is easy for the defense attorney to pick apart. Prime example, you guys go back to Breage's trial. I think it was day 2. The brother testified. And, of course, the defense attorney, he jumped all over that like he should, like he would. Okay? So they also did the same thing with the other children in there. Also insinuating, not assuming, insinuating that the prosecution may have, guided some of this testimony. Okay? So it's not necessarily accurate to what the boy is saying as truth, but it is what the DA wants them to say. And the story is, they were mean. We all knew that. They mistreated the children. We all knew that. They had these types of punishments that weren't cool. We all knew that. But something happened one night, and Orson, the other boy said he heard a noise, and he didn't pay no attention because the boys whined and cried a lot. And he woke up, and the boy was laying in the bed face down with throw up, and he touched him and he was cold. And they say that the boy said the mother told him that Orson was deceased, and they're not going to call the police because they're going to come take all the children, which is accurate. Yeah. And so they have to be quiet. And they have to not say anything, not to the other children, not to anyone. That's a lot to put on a child. If that's, what happened, that's a lot to put on a child. Kind of like DL, we're still on the fence and unsure of what all he knew from that night and what all he saw from that night. And when you look at him in his police interview, and you look at him, I'm talking about Breasia Terrell's brother, 8 years old at the time. You look at him when he came out the morning, when the cop showed up, he didn't seem distraught about anything. He didn't seem distraught. He didn't seem shaky. He didn't seem like he knew much of any doggone thing at all. Now, fast forward, age 11, I saw him shoot my sister. This, that, and the third. This, da, 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 da. He telling all this stuff. Some of it proven to be spot on because it led them to important parts of this investigation. It led them to where she is. Which, let me say, if a child is missing and he went to Clinton City, right? Every body of water should have been checked. They should have had a map, an atlas, a globe. Got Christopher Columbus. He good at finding stuff that nobody knew was there. Find all the bodies of water so we can check them. That should have been standard. So now I see people from there saying that they heavily dropped the ball and stuff like that. I understand what they're saying. I understand what they're saying because they had information that led him to that place. They should have checked all bodies of water, and they would have came across that body of water, and they would have checked it. They had other evidence that put him in that area, and they still didn't check. So that was unfortunate, and we don't have a reason to that, but they did eventually find her. Will they find Orrin and Orson? I think where they live at, they had too many opportunities to dispose of these boys' bodies. Now, where their skeletal remains, be found one day? I'm thinking no. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm thinking no. Because there's like several things I can think of off the top of my head based upon the type of place that they live, especially to where they could have gotten rid of all of the evidence. It could be so, if not gotten rid of, it could at least be so broken up and scattered up that it just, people wouldn't even know what it is when they find it. The bodies have not been found in this amount of time. Okay. I don't know how thorough the searching was. I tend to question how thorough the searching be. Right? They didn't search that body of water in the city where Henry was, and they knew. Everybody knew Henry had Breasia last. Everybody knows this, right? So we're still waiting on a verdict on good old Henry. And
where are the boys is? They're dead.
My bad.
Reality here, man.
So the judge has a good amount of time to take his time on that verdict, and I believe he has 60 days. I believe he has 30 or 60 days. I have to look it up, but I know he has time because, again, y'all, this is one person going over all the evidence, and it's not clear and uncut. It is largely circumstantial, and even though there's a lot of evidence that clearly shows that he had to be the last person with her, he had to have done this. The evidence is showing that, right? It's not definitive. Like, they still can't 100% put Breasia in the car with Henry at that time. Andre ain't telling the full truth because we know she not. Little brother, let's keep it real. He might be holding on to some stuff too. Again, that's a small little apartment. Come on, y'all. He in the same bed with his sister. She kicked him hard, and he didn't see where she went, when she went. But he saw Andrea look out the window. I don't think it could be both, but I'm gonna leave it there because there's some more things I could say, and I really don't want to. We don't need what's understood. Don't need to be said. Okay. I think we're clear that everybody in that house knew what happened. I think we're clear on that. I think we're clear. It's even more clear now that the brother has a different version of what he is saying. Right? Okay. Andrea even got a different version now than she was saying before. So everybody was covered for Henry stinkins. But now they're saying, this a little bit, this a little bit, this a little bit, that. When I don't think it was no little bit of nothing. Okay? Everybody in that house knew he had his sights on her. And when he got to moving around at 3 a.m., I don't think he was shy no shame. Who gonna check me, boo? Nobody. Nobody's gonna check him. He gonna walk right on out the door with the girl like he want to. Okay? So when, it came down to I'm done and I'm about to take her out, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the boy. And, honestly, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. When Breasia's mother saw Henry in his car when she was supposed to be trying to find him, meet him or whatever, leaving work, and he was speeding around and she had to catch him, I think he might have been thinking about getting rid of his son. I'm just going to leave that there. So back to these fellas here. Orrin and Orson. Classic and sincere. That's what it was. Classic and sincere. That's what the mother had originally named them. Okay? So there was even a war online. People, they get mad if you call them classic and sincere. They get mad if you call them Orrin and Orson. Especially, the majority of the people who were mad at the adoptive parents. But that is their legal name. They were their legal parents. And they have a right to change their name. And it makes sense in adoption. So it was just a lot of pettiness going on. We don't know where these boys are. We don't know exactly what happened to these boys, but it seems like they had a raw deal in life. And it seems like these people aren't going to get necessarily charged for their murder. Okay? They aren't going to get charged for their murder. And a lot of people say they're happy with the verdict. So when they have sentencing, will you guys still be happy? I don't think these two are ever gonna tell where Orrin and Orson is. They don't seem to be the type. I'm gonna be honest with you. Henry was a dummy. He had someone in jail testify that he said they're never gonna find the body. He was dumb for thinking that, and he was dumb for saying it, but he's arrogant about his shit. Okay? So, he felt like he had to say it. And that was stupid, because what you mean, that little small little play lake? Because you thought piranhas was going to eat her up good or something? They don't like them bones. Like, I just don't. What makes them think that you was in the area, spotted, caught? They got all your shit in the area. What you mean they're not going to ever find her body? She got bones laying out there still. She got hair attached to her body still. The clothing you left out there, you bum fool, flip-flops and all that. What you mean they never going to find her body? Just the dumbdacity. Just dumb. Okay. So, this is a reporting by KGET News. Let's see some of what they're saying.
The boys went missing. It didn't do enough to show that no one took them. It was wander off or dead.
There are glaring issues in this case that cannot be excused.
It's time for justice.
Where are the boys? It is a question that has haunted Kern County since December 21st, 2020, when two young brothers were reported missing out of California City. Thanks for joining us here on 17 News at Noon. I'm Elena Rusk.
And I'm Maddie Jansen. After just 2 days of deliberation, a verdict has been reached in one of the most closely watched trials in Kern County history. Trezell and Jacqueline West have been found guilty on one count of...
Closely watched by who? Because we didn't closely watch nothing. And I know I'm not the only one who is not happy about that. There are plenty of people who are like, well, we couldn't see the trial, though. So, I'm going to fast forward it because I really don't want to hear it. I ain't get to watch it, so I don't need nobody telling me nothing.
Degree murder for the death of Orrin West. But the jury was deadlocked on the second count of second-degree murder related to the death of the other child, Orson. And so the judge declared a mistrial on 2 charges.
Now we have 17 News team coverage today. Our Alex Fisher taking a deep dive through this case starting from day 1.
Did y'all hear that?
Full recap on the
murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And I'm assuming the conspiracy is because it is alleged by them that the child, one of the children, or more than one of the children, said that they planned to kill the other boy after one had died. And a lot of people said that, guys. A lot of y'all said that that's what happened. Something happened during disciplining or whatever with one of the boys, and they just went ahead and took out the other boy. And I said, you already got one that passed away. Why would you want to take out another child? And lo and behold, this is what they are formally being accused of doing. I'll be.
Year-long investigation coming up, and 17's Marco Torres will have more on the boys' journey through foster care, which ultimately landed Orrin and Orson in the custody of the Wests.
But we begin our coverage with a breakdown of the verdict. Trezell and Jacqueline West faced a slew of charges, among them second-degree murder, willful cruelty to a child, involuntary manslaughter, conspiring to commit murder, and falsely reporting an emergency. Counts 1 through 3 apply to Orrin West, who allegedly died in Bakersfield before the Wests ever moved to California City. Counts 4 through 6 apply to Orson, who prosecutors argue was killed after Orrin died. On the first count of second-degree murder, the jury found Trezell and Jacqueline West guilty. The jury also turned in a guilty verdict on count 2, involuntary manslaughter of Orrin West. On the third count of willful cruelty to a child, the jury found Trezell and Jacqueline West guilty. But here's where the jury couldn't reach an agreement on 2 of the charges related to Orson. That mistrial was declared for count 4, conspiring to commit a murder, as well as count 5, second-degree murder. Prosecutors argued he was killed shortly after Orrin died. For count 6 of willful cruelty of a child related to Orson, the jury found Trezell and Jacqueline West guilty. And finally, count 7, false.
That makes no sense to me. I don't understand that, because if you're gonna say, because you have to have some story to take this to trial. What happened to the children, right? Okay, what they're saying is they're deceased. One died, or they're saying they killed them because it's this murder. All right, second degree. So they killed them, but it wasn't necessarily intentional, is what they're saying. And when he died, you wanted to kill the other ones, and you did. So if they are saying it, why are they having a hard time charging them for it? To me, that doesn't make any sense. So you got 1 count of second-degree murder for the first one who died. Okay? But no type of murder for the second child that you're saying that they did kill. Make that make sense.
Of an emergency, the jury turning in a verdict of guilty. Trezell and Jacqueline West will be sentenced on July 13th.
Hold on.
Now, even 2 years after intense public...
So you mean to tell me, I'm driving, y'all, so you mean to tell me they got sentenced already? Because I didn't find any video that talked about their sentencing. I mean, they're going to do some time, I'm sure. But I'm confused as to how they have a mistrial on the second one, when you gotta have an explanation as to what happened to both the children. So they are saying both of them were killed, and you even planned to kill the second one. The first one, you kind of did it, but you didn't really necessarily maybe mean to do it. So if they planned to kill him and they killed him, how you can't get them for conspiracy and murder on the second one? I'm not going all the way up there. Let me back the hill up. Well, then again, I'm already here. I don't understand.
We know very little about Trezell and Jacqueline West. Public records tell us Trezell Philip West is 36 years old. Jacqueline Gabrielle Vasquez West is 33. Prior to December 2020, they had no local arrest records. In the months after the boys were reported missing, there were dozens of searches and scores of prayer vigils for Orrin and Orson, but the Wests never went to those. There was even 3 social media posts by the extended West family praying for the boys' return, but none by Trezell and Jacqueline. A yearbook confirms Trezell was a 2004 graduate of Bakersfield High School. Immediately after Orrin and Orson went missing in 2020, authorities seized the other 4 boys who were living with Wests.
Before the conviction, Trezell and Jacqueline West were indicted by the Kern County Grand Jury. Little's known about those proceedings, but that's intentional. The Kern County Grand Jury is made up of 19 volunteers from the community. It's rarely used. Most of the time, prosecutors file charges directly, leading to a public preliminary hearing. But when they happen, a grand jury's proceedings are private. Witnesses can testify without fear of retaliation, and prosecutors can avoid tipping a defendant ready to flee the county. And ultimately, members of a grand jury have the power to bring an indictment. Defense attorneys are not present at grand jury proceedings. Their only information comes from the prosecution. That fact has led some to question the fairness of the process. The murder conviction came in the second degree. According to California law, a second-degree murder charge alleges a killing that is intentional but not premeditated, or a killing caused by reckless disregard for human life. The act typically doesn't have any kind of premeditation and may only have been intended to cause harm rather than death. It's punishable by a prison term of 15 years to life. First-degree murder, on the other hand, is defined as the unlawful killing of a human being or a fetus with malice aforethought.
Now, this verdict is just another chapter in the long and sad story of these missing boys. 17's Alex Fisher joins us with more on how we got to this point.
They are our children, and so we want them back.
A desperate plea just 4 days before Christmas. Trezell and Jacqueline West report 2 of their kids are missing. It's December 21st, 2020. The West clan, 3-year-old Orson and 4-year-old Orrin, have gone missing from the backyard of their home on the edge of the vast desert community of California City.
I came in the house, I saw them there. One house, I came back out, I didn't see them there. I realized that I left the gate open, and I panicked.
The couple called police later that night. Officers and neighbors rushed to the house and started looking for the boys, scouring yards and fields.
And that's all I want is to find things. I'm there, and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down the street, I turned my light on, I searched the car.
I don't know why he's saying that, because the couple didn't call no police that night. The couple called the police way after they was missing, way after they was not around. They took time to get their story together, to get settled into their home, pretty much. And can you imagine they went through all that to finally get a house and it's over as soon as it starts? They waited. They took their time about calling the police. And then they said, well, it was time. We're going to have to pay the piper. Let's rehearse this one more time, take the children to grandma and do it. And it was perfect because they could keep the children away from anybody talking to them.
Turned into an investigation. Investigators went through the West home, taking large brown bags full of evidence. The family's van was towed. Their cell phones were seized. Police said the Wests were cooperating with the investigation, but authorities removed the family's 4 other sons to protective custody. The community prayed. They left presents. Family, friends, and strangers all clinging to hope.
We're looking for something to do. Look, some way that we can step up and do something with the community. And right now, the only thing that we can do is give gifts because they weren't able to get gifts on Christmas.
Police continued their search. They dug up vacant fields. They used ground-penetrating radar to search for bodies, but nothing.
What I do truly believe is that night, there's no way that they could have got out of that the neighborhood.
Man, this is bringing back so many memories, so many memories. This is bringing back so many memories. Man, it was so much drama involved in this case. The detective, they were saying he was an actor, and man, listen, I think one of them stepped down from the case because of the drama. Man, listen, y'all, I tell you, this case was drama, straight drama.
Who that adult might have been, but a week later, the exhausted chief was more blunt.
I can't comment on that, whether I think they're alive or not. I do suspect foul play. We haven't been able to put together, how the boys got out of the yard or where they've gone.
4 months later, the Bakersfield Police Department took over the case. BPD said they had more resources than the 21-officer California City Police Department. After BPD got the case, investigators followed up on leads. some of them leading to massive searches.
I expect that there will be more searches. There's been numerous interviews, numerous search warrants, and that will continue.
Okay, maybe this is his commentary is old, because we know good and well that's not why they took over the case, right? They took over the case because they surmised that the boys didn't go missing from there. They went missing from where they first moved from, which was what? Bakersfield. So that's why Bakersfield took over. It was stuff they was trying to not let us know, but we was figuring it out, and that was one of them. Okay, that was one of them.
Nothing was turning up. The community was getting worried, but still remained hopeful. Community contributions poured in to create a reward of more than $100,000. Prayer vigils were held. People gathered to ask God to return the boys safely. Trezell and Jacqueline never attended any. Then, a year later, a stunning development.
The investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased. The investigation has also revealed that they died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing.
Trezell and Jacqueline West were indicted by the...
So this is when they said that they were deceased, and they were deceased at least 3 months before they moved there? And we were like, okay, we pretty much figured that part. But how do they know this with no bodies? We couldn't figure that part out. Now we know. They got it from the other children.
On charges, they murdered the boys. Hours before his arrest, 17 News tracked down Trezell West at a post office in Edison. He took off in an RV west of Bakersfield, and that's when police caught up to him and made the arrest. For 14 months, people asked, where are the boys? Now, they were asking something different.
You see that? You see that around their house? Okay, dingoes and banshees and, let's rewind a little bit. You see around their house, y'all? You see what I'm talking about? Okay.
Hours before his arrest, 17 News tracked down Trezell West at a post office in Edison. He took off in an RV west of Bakersfield, and that's when police caught up to him and made the arrest. For 14 months, people asked, where are the boys? Now, they were asking something different.
The question is now, where are the boys' bodies? We want to be able to bring them home and, give them a proper burial.
Trezell and Jacqueline West pleaded not guilty.
It feels good, though, to see them sitting there handcuffed in those brown suits or whatever. That's where they belong.
The trial went on for more than a month. Witnesses said they hadn't seen the boys for months prior to them being...
Is it just me? I do Trezell looks almost totally different. I mean, I know there's some weight gain there, but he just looked different, don't he? Jacqueline she looked like she did something with herself. Listen, it just looked like she dolled up a little bit. All right, but he been stressing though.
Ultimately, the answer to the question of where are the boys will be answered is that they're dead. And at the end of the case, I will ask you to return a verdict of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt as to Trezell and Jacqueline for the murders of Orrin and Orson West.
But the pivotal testimony came from the West's eldest biological child, who claimed he saw 4-year-old Orrin's body at the family's home.
They let him die.
The defense argued that police focused on the West from the very beginning, ignoring other possible suspects.
This was a tragic accident, is what the evidence will show. All right? They don't have an answer for it because it was tragic. Instead, Trezell is here on a murder charge.
We are saying that, honestly, anything could have happened, right? They were abducted. We don't know. And to be quite honest, if we knew the answers to that, we really wouldn't even be here.
The question remains the same. Where are the boys?
Hold on.
Over the past 6 months, we have been investigating as well as exposing...
That was 17th.
That woman in the white is their defense, the same lady that was sitting there beside them the whole time? She got a pretty face.
Fisher reporting. Without a body, proving that someone has committed murder is difficult, but it's not impossible. The last no-body murder conviction here in Kern County was the case of Daniel Rose. Last year, the Caliente man was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison for gunning down William Alford in 2019. Rhodes admitted he shot Alford after Alford forced his way into his home and threatened him. Rhodes told investigators he loaded Alford's body into his pickup and tossed it inside a large trash bin off Caliente Bodfish Road. Alford's body has never been found. Test results revealed a bullet fragment found at the scene of the shooting had DNA on it consistent with Alford's DNA profile.
What?
Now, when Orrin and Orson were reported missing in 2020, concerned citizens and businesses pledged various rewards that totaled well over $125,000. But it was an unorganized grassroots effort, and there's no evidence that anyone ever collected any money. There were never any consistent conditions on what was required to earn the rewards. At one point, the California City Police Department even offered $25,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Cal City Police Chief Jesse Hightower confirming to 17 News no one ever came forward to claim their money. And public interest in this
the only people that we felt like had information on this case was Trezel's family, because we don't know where her Jacqueline family is. Well, no, she was with her mom, wasn't she, at one point? Well, their family. We're going to say that. But definitely people thought Trezel's family had information. But they're the only people that anybody felt like had information on that case. Trezel's family. Nobody, because they kept to themselves. They didn't deal with nobody. Which ain't nothing wrong with that. But they ran to his family, pretty much. And then eventually, it was so much pressure on them. Man, y'all kept pressure on them people. I was feeling bad. Listen, I was trying to tell y'all to chill out. Don't be so mean. Don't stalk them while they walking down the street. Don't mess with the parents. Don't mess with the other family, all that kind of stuff. Y'all was going ham on them people. So much so, they ended up separating. She, I think, went to stay with her mom, and he went to stay in an RV or something like that. Child.
To accommodate a fervent online audience, and with it, issues of sidestepping court media guidelines. The trial began on March 28th. Those who couldn't make it inside the courtroom could listen in through an audio stream provided by the court. Public Affairs Officer Kristen Davis told KGT that hundreds of people logged in to listen to the proceedings. The number grew over the first 3 days of the trial, reaching nearly 1,800 listeners by March 30th. With this case being highly sensitive, the judge implemented restrictions for what was allowed to be recorded, but some people didn't play by the rules. The court says there were several people illegally streaming the proceedings on other platforms.
The story of the West Boys...
the story of the West Boys going through foster care and then later on to adoption had many twists and turns. Here's 17's Marco Torre.
First of all, I'm getting a headache. First of all, yeah, people gonna stream this case. This case was everywhere all the time. Every social media platform, where are the boys? Where are the boys? Where are the boys? Everybody and their mama wanted to know where are the boys. Okay? If they would have publicized this case via video, everybody would have been covering it. Everybody would have been covering it. And that's probably part of the reason why they're not doing it. For some reason, they want you to go to their website. I don't know, but they filed for that. They filed for not letting us hear what evidence they had and presented, which we know wasn't really much, but what those children had to say and whoever else they brought forth, these are all, they did good at hiding stuff from us, and we did good at figuring some stuff out, and a lot of people were doing their own investigations and bringing it forth, and some of it didn't necessarily have to do with the boys missing, but they dug up all these people's business. Okay? I mean, all their business. So, I don't know. Maybe this is part of their taking back control by not, airing the case for y'all. For us. Shit. What?
Orrin and Orson West, as we know them today, weren't born with those names. Their birth names were Sincere with a C and Classic Pettis. Sincere was born on August 4th, 2016, and Classic was born June 11th, 2017. The boys were born 10 months apart to Ryan Dean and Charles Pettis. When Sincere was 3 months old, according to court
here's
documents,
the daddy.
he was taken
Hold on,
to
let me
Memorial Hospital.
rewind. They look just like, it's one, the oldest one, I think it's so, both of them look like the daddy, but that one boy looked just like him.
Born June 11th, 2017. The boys were born 10 months apart to Ryan Dean and Charles Pettis. When Sincere was 3 months old, according to court documents, he was taken to Memorial Hospital for crying uncontrollably. It was discovered his leg was broken.
I was at work. I noticed my baby cry wasn't normal when I got home, and I took him straight to the hospital, and they say he had a femur bone. His femur bone was broken and twisted for it.
Kern County Human Services suspected abuse and placed him in emergency foster care. A month later, he was placed in an established Bakersfield foster home operated by a woman named LaToya Spry. Dean, his biological mother, visited him multiple times a week as she fought to get him back, according to court documents. 6 months later, Dean gave birth to her second child. She named him Classic. Classic went home with Dean, but 11 days later, he was removed from the home based on suspicions about what happened to his brother. He was reunited with his brother in Spry's foster home. During the murder trial, Spry testified the boys were removed from her home in 2018 after her daughter went to school with a scrape on her leg. Abuse was feared. There never were criminal charges against Spry, but the boys, then about 1 and 2 years old, were removed from her home and placed with Trezell and Jacqueline West.
They got taken from an abusive home and put into an abusive home.
The Wests renamed Sincere Orrin West, and they renamed Classic Orson West.
I don't know about y'all, but that's the first time I'm hearing that about that foster place. Okay. I can't really speak on the mother. I don't really have no comment because I don't know.
In 2019, the boys were formally adopted by the West family. The next year, in December of 2020, both Orrin and Orson were reported missing by Trezell and Jacqueline West. They were 3 and 4 years old. Marco Torres, 17 News.
17 News has followed this case since the very beginning. For complete coverage, just head to our website.
This is just that last part really, just when you put it all together and you realize that this woman lost her children that quick, and then they took her baby she just had, and then the foster care where she was at, they got her taken out from there. So now she went from seeing them a lot to not seeing them, and they adopted. I do think that they just felt like they weren't gonna give her back her children, and you can't do that. And I heard she had a lawsuit. I hope she's pursuing it, and I hope she wins. Because I really can't sit here and say nothing about what happened when she was at work and blah blah blah. I don't know why she didn't want to give a name. I'm not sure. Maybe because she didn't want that person to go to jail because she felt like they didn't really hurt. A femur bone, though. I mean, I done already broke that down back then. So, I mean, again, I really don't have that much to say, but it's sad, And then now they deceased. And where was Dad the whole time? Like, I don't know. But I'm gonna look for their judgment. Clearly this came out before they got the judgment. They said July, but somebody said September. Somebody said they're going back because I put in judgment keyword, and I didn't get any video that gave me what their judgments were. And I really didn't look too much. I've been busy. Okay. So if any of y'all know that they got judged, let me know. And if not, maybe they are going back to court in September, and we'll see. But honestly, y'all, I really don't even want to know what their sentencing is. I mean, it's over with. Like, the children gave their account of what happened. The only thing I'm really interested in at this point is to see if we're going to get the boys. Find them. I mean, let's just say we never found Breasia. There would have been a lot that we would not have known, which was a whole lot. What happened to her potentially? The fact that she laid out there. I mean, just the never knowing part. That's worse. So their remains can tell some of the story, but I don't think that they have remains. And you're definitely not gonna find them like you found Breasia, all almost in one piece. I don't think they're gonna find them boys. I just really strongly don't think that they're ever gonna find them boys. I think one day somebody or some people might come across some parts of them and not really understand or know or have a way of saying this is da da da. But I think that they're shredded. I think that they shredded somehow. I think that they're real gone. That's where you be at if you want to get rid of a body, I'm trying to tell you. Okay? And I ain't even going to act like I know how to get rid of a body and give y'all different ways that they could have got rid of the body. But I don't. I think the husband is more technical than people might think. Okay? So, Orrin and Orson, we sorry for what y'all may have went through, and at least they got found out. At least they not gonna get no more children. At least they gonna go to jail. At least you know that regardless of what you got in your life while you were here, all these people who never knew about you loved you. And they showed up for you, and they came for you, and they looked for you, and they cared about what was going on with you. And we sorry it had to happen like this for you guys. Sometimes life it just don't make no sense. It just don't make no sense because you deserved more than this. But they won't be hurting no more children, that's for sure. So hopefully there's a part of you guys that can go rest in peace and swing by and give your mama a little kiss. Peace, y'all.